You seem quite contemptuous of me all of a sudden.
No, Red. None of you. Never of you.
An actual carpet.
Whose idea was that?
What color would you like?
Well, I'd like no color.
What do you want?
You're wonderful.
Oh,
There's a magnificence in you, Tracy.
I wish for your sake as well as mine I had an explanation, but unfortunately I've none.
The mention of Katharine Hepburn often invokes memories of her legendary connection with Spencer Tracy, a romance steeped in history. Yet, some conjecture surrounds their relationship, suggesting it might have been more akin to a strategic arrangement. According to speculation, they allegedly had an agreement to conceal aspects of their personal lives, particularly secrets related to their sexual orientation. Katharine Hepburn stood out as a distinctive figure in Hollywood, defying the conventional image of a starlet with her assertive personality and tomboyish fashion choices. Opting for trousers over traditional attire, Hepburn exuded a one-of-a-kind charm that sustained her throughout one of the lengthiest careers in Hollywood. Despite her public image of privacy and reticence, behind the scenes, Hepburn harbored a proclivity for concealing secrets.
East Side lady of New York, who may not be winning the battle against big city.
Haunted by a shadowy past and entangled in tumultuous romances, Katharine Hepburn's life in the celebrity spotlight wasn't always the fairy tale it appeared to be. Katharine Hepburn, born on May 12, 1907, was raised in the midst of a delightfully large and forward-thinking family. However, in the conservative community of Hartford, Connecticut, the Hepburns faced disparaging whispers and condemnations. Hepburn's parents were unabashedly progressive. Her mother actively participated in Votes for Women demonstrations, while her father spoke openly about the prevention of venereal disease.
That he asked Mrs. Shaw to translate the play Damaged Goods, you know, the three plays by Brewer.
Yes.
Despite being labeled scandalous by their townspeople, young Hepburn saw her parents as nothing short of remarkable. In fact, the Hepburns not only embraced their unconventional beliefs, but also encouraged their daughter to pursue endeavors that would undoubtedly shock their more conservative peers.
And she worked side by side with an Emily.
Well, when Blackhurst used to come over here, she would stay with us.
During her formative years, Hepburn harbored a strong aversion to conforming to traditional gender roles. Rejecting the expectations placed on her as a girl, she identified more closely with boys and went to the extent of cutting off all her hair, adopting the name Jimmy, and requesting everyone to address her as such. Rather than discouraging her tomboy nature, Hepburn's parents celebrated it, fostering an environment where she could embrace her authentic self. Their unwavering support set the stage for her journey towards greatness.
And, they were on the same boat, so to speak.
Yes, yes. And your father was really very much ahead of his time.
Hepburn not only excelled as a talented golfer during this period, but also delved into her passion for cinema, organizing plays in her backyard. Her childhood was marked by a healthy and charming environment. However, little did she anticipate that her life was on the verge of an unexpectedly dark turn. At the age of 13, Katharine Hepburn embarked on an exhilarating trip to New York with her older brother Tom during their Easter break. Accommodated by their aunt, the siblings portrayed an image of unbridled happiness, with Tom emphatically declaring that this was one of the finest experiences of his life. Little did Hepburn anticipate how swiftly this moment of euphoria would unravel and collapse around her.
You came to New York to work in a play called The Lake.
Yes.
Your disaster.
The morning after a delightful outing to the theater, Hepburn stumbled upon a deeply disturbing sight that would haunt her for the remainder of her days. She discovered her cherished 15-year-old brother Tom hanging from the attic ceiling, the curtain tie serving as a tragic means of his apparent. Hepburn, devastated beyond words, found herself inconsolable. However, the response from her family to this heartbreaking incident was nothing short of chilling.
Because I think that was a very, very difficult thing for me to deal with.
Denial infiltrated Hepburn's grief-stricken family like a pervasive illness. They adamantly rejected the notion that Tom had taken his own life, persistently asserting that it must have been an unfortunate accident or some form of botched experiment. Hepburn, in the midst of this distressing atmosphere, underwent a disheartening transformation. She evolved into a more anxious and distrustful person, profoundly affected by the tragic loss of her brother. As time passed, the weight of this loss continued to burden her, prompting unsettling withdrawals from the world around her.
And I thought, what went wrong? How could I, an actor by then, 2 or 3 years, have walked through?
In the aftermath of her brother's tragic death, Katherine Hepburn found herself increasingly isolated, struggling to connect with her peers. Faced with this challenge, she made a drastic decision to withdraw from formal schooling, opting instead for education provided by a private tutor. The specter of Tom's memory seemed to linger wherever she went. It wasn't until 1924 that Hepburn finally took a step out of the shadows that had enveloped her for so long.
Absolutely walked through it thinking, God, I wish I weren't here. Oh, I wish I were dead.
Enrolling in Bryn Mawr College to fulfill her mother's wishes, Hepburn initially hesitated to engage with fellow students. Overwhelmed by self-consciousness and awkwardness in class, she refrained from joining her peers in the dining hall for an entire month. However, her struggle to fit in was destined to be short-lived. Hepburn, a natural rebel, was about to make a significant splash, quite literally.
And there still isn't. I'll get made up at home.
Well,
Because at least I'm used to running water.
Didn't
They put you in the green room.
During her second year of studies, Hepburn became part of the drama group and landed the role of the leading man in one of the plays. This required her to adopt a male persona, a look she often embraced even off stage. In one of her more audacious moments, Hepburn took things to the extreme by stripping off her clothes and bathing in the cloister pond, leaving herself exposed to the open air. But that was just the beginning of her unconventional escapades. Hepburn's lover, Ludlow Ogden Smith, affectionately known as Luddy, was a socialite businessman and her eventual husband. However, as Hepburn later revealed in her autobiography, the couple refrained from taking their relationship to the next level during their courtship. Despite this, she exhibited a striking comfort with nudity, often undressing in front of Smith. Hepburn, unreserved in her expressions of intimacy, had no qualms about bearing it all for Smith's camera, occasionally posing sans clothing.
Well, my only experience in this theater, I made a ludicrous spectacle of myself. I played about 40-odd years ago.
As is often the case with young love, Hepburn and Smith found themselves entangled at an inopportune time, and in the end, fate dealt them a harsh blow. Having discovered her passion for theater during her college years, Hepburn felt in her heart that this was her ultimate dream. However, her conviction did not sway her father. He couldn't fathom the idea of her pursuing acting, given the common association of the profession with financial struggles. Undeterred by his skepticism, Hepburn pressed on, her strong will propelling her forward. She could only hope to prove her father wrong, aware that the path ahead wouldn't be an easy one.
Through this theater. Not in this theater. They wouldn't even take me in this theater. I had to fly out to Minneapolis to join a company of the night hostess.
Only a month into her theater career, Hepburn really dropped the ball. After the lead for The Big Pond got fired, Hepburn stepped up to the plate as the understudy. But when opening night arrived, her entire performance came apart at the seams. She showed up late, messed up her lines, rushed the dialogue, and even physically tripped over herself. Unfortunately, the humiliation didn't end there. Following her dismissal from The Big Pond, Hepburn faced a series of setbacks. Frustrated and vulnerable, she made a surprising decision that sent shockwaves through the theater world. She chose to marry her college sweetheart, Ludlow Ogden Smith. However, after just a few weeks of assuming the role of a wife, Hepburn found herself disenchanted. She swiftly returned to her career, reigniting the flames of one of her most significant regrets.
Persuade someone to marry me.
Well, you did that too.
I did that early. A nice man who gave me everything I wanted.
Through their 6 years of marriage, Hepburn exploited her husband's deep devotion for her. Later, she admitted, "I wasn't fit to be married because I only thought about myself." Hepburn faced challenges in connecting with audiences, partly due to her unconventional public persona. During an era governed by the moral constraints of the motion picture production code and the societal pressures of the Depression era, which emphasized traditional values and a nostalgic longing for simpler times, Hollywood had limited tolerance for Hepburn's forward-thinking independence. Her nonconformist nature often clashed with the prevailing sentiments of the time, making it difficult for her to find resonance with the audience.
I hope this ends with no emotion of any kind.
In 1938, Hepburn found herself labeled as Hollywood's most baffling question mark. She maintained a deeply private and often brusque demeanor with the press, yet behind closed doors, she was known for her kindness and generosity. When attempting to assert control over her career, she faced criticism for being perceived as bossy. Pressured to conform to traditional gender roles, Hepburn definitely wore men's slacks, kept her personal life shrouded in secrecy, and opted not to settle down and have children. Her reluctance to disclose details about her life earned her the unflattering moniker Katherine of Arrogance, and a 1940 Modern Screen article went so far as to dub her the most maligned woman in Hollywood. The culmination of these challenges occurred in May 1938 when the Independent Theater Owners of America released a list of actors and actresses deemed box office poison. Hepburn, alongside stars like Greta Garbo and Joan Crawford, was singled out as a burden to studios due to her high salary without a corresponding box office draw. In response, RKO offered Hepburn a B-movie, and she began receiving salary offers lower than what she had been paid at the beginning of her career.
From defeat, I learned you have to know a little bit what you're doing, and you are the only person who is to blame.
Unwilling to let the label of box office poison define her career, Hepburn took matters into her own hands. She bought out her contract from RKO and returned to her home in Connecticut. There, she collaborated with playwright Philip Barry, taking a risk by foregoing a salary for her role in exchange for a percentage of the profits. With the support of Howard Hughes, her former partner, she also secured the film rights for $30,000. The play, which opened on Broadway on March 28, 1939, turned out to be a massive success. By the time the production closed a year later, it had grossed over $1.5 million and garnered rave reviews. In the fall of 1939, Hepburn began negotiating with studios for the film adaptation. Articles from the Film Daily reported Warner Brothers negotiating in October 1939 for the film rights at $250,000. Ultimately, in January 1940, she sold the rights to MGM. In addition to $175,000 for the film rights, Hepburn secured a $75,000 salary from the studio. While she could have potentially negotiated a higher upfront amount with another studio given the play's success, what she valued more than money was control, and MGM provided her with that autonomy.
You can't move on saying, well, I don't want to go this way, I'm going this way because you're pushing me. Don't do that.
Under her MGM deal, Hepburn secured the rare opportunity to handpick the director, writer, and co-stars for The Philadelphia Story, opting for George Cukor, with whom she had collaborated 4 times before, as the director, and Donald Ogden Stewart as the writer for the adaptation. Hepburn displayed her keen eye for talent. Despite her initial choices of Spencer Tracy and Clark Gable being unavailable, she successfully cast Cary Grant as C.K. Dexter Haven and James Stewart as Macaulay Mike Connor. Stewart portrayed a reporter covering the wedding, adding a layer of romantic tension with Tracy before her character decides to reconcile with Haven.
Sam, come in. Haven't you met Miss Harding?
Yes, in a belligerent sort of way.
He hit me first. Hello.
The Philadelphia Story premiered in New York on December 26, 1940, receiving widespread critical acclaim and commercial success. At Radio City Music Hall, it outsold any film in the first week for the past 5 years. The nationwide release in January 1941 made it the second highest grossing film of that year. The film earned 6 Oscar nominations, including 1 for Hepburn, and secured wins for Adapted Screenplay and Supporting Actor for Stewart.
Thank you very, very much. I am naturally deeply moved.
Katherine Hepburn's triumphant return with The Philadelphia Story marked a significant success story, cementing her place back in Hollywood for the next 5 decades. Ironically, the very assertiveness that had once alienated audiences turned out to be the driving force behind Hepburn's comeback. In an era dominated by the studio system, she took charge, acquiring and selling rights for profit, and personally handpicking the cast and crew for her film. Following the movie's release, Harry Brandt, the head of the Independent Theater Owners of America, removed Hepburn from the box office poison list and declared, "Come on back, Katie, all is forgiven." The sentiment, though unclear in its context, symbolized the industry's acknowledgement of her successful turnaround.
I'm also very happy that I didn't hear anyone call out, "It's about time." I am the living proof.
While it would be heartening to believe that Hepburn's struggles and triumphs paved the way for greater autonomy for actresses in the industry, her battle against Hollywood in 1940 still resonates in 2018. Although progress has been made, Hepburn's challenges are not entirely unfamiliar, indicating that the fight for greater agency for women in filmmaking is an ongoing one.
That a person can wait 41 years to be unselfish.
However, did the struggles and difficulties stop there? Well, no. She got entangled in a relationship with Spencer Tracy. The relationship between Katherine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, spanning 9 movies and over 25 years, has been the subject of speculation and rumors regarding its nature. Some insiders have suggested that their legendary connection wasn't romantic, but rather a cover for individual orientations, with claims that either one or both of them were gay.
You see that a little bit in the movie. We have corroboration in the movie for Hepburn's lesbianism. Liz Smith, who was the greatest gossip columnist and very respected, truthful journalist.
Given that both Hepburn and Tracy are no longer here to address these claims, and considering that much of this speculation emerged after their deaths, Tracy in 1967 and Hepburn in 2003, the truth remains elusive. Their relationship itself was relatively private, with Hepburn refraining from public discussions about being with Tracy until after his passing. If the speculations are accurate, it would imply that the iconic actors maintained a clandestine relationship, potentially to conceal other personal secrets.
She had lesbian relationships. Spencer Tracy, George Cukor, the great director, put Spencer Tracy up in his guest house. The secretaries of Cukor confirmed.
Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy's professional collaboration began with the 1942 film Woman of the Year, marking the inception of their personal relationship. During this time, Tracy was still legally married to Louise Treadwell, with whom he had tied the knot in 1923, and they had 2 children together. Although the couple was separated, they never pursued a legal divorce, partly due to Tracy's adherence to Catholic beliefs and purportedly because Louise had not sought a divorce. Consequently, they remained married but lived separate lives. Indeed, despite starring alongside each other in numerous films, Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy kept their love affair relatively discreet. Tracy's ongoing marriage was a significant factor in maintaining this discretion, as their affair had the potential to attract attention that might adversely impact their films. Additionally, Hepburn, having been previously married to Ludlow Ogden Smith from 1928 to 1934, wasn't particularly keen on entering into another marriage, further contributing to the need for secrecy surrounding their relationship.
Through the years, I've tried to capture the essence of Spence. He had a wonderful head, but he was a difficult man to know.
Gene Kelly once said that Tracy and Hepburn's relationship wasn't secret within Hollywood, however. At lunchtime, they'd just meet and sit on a bench on the lot, he said, via People. They'd hold hands and talk, and everybody left them alone in their little private world. Hepburn waited until Tracy's wife died until she spoke about her relationship with him publicly. She wrote about him in her 1991 memoir, Me, Stories of My Life. And she told Katie Couric in an interview, he was a witty, amusing, entertaining man with a rather difficult nature. It was easy for me to please Spencer because I loved him. He had a wonderful sense of humor and a remarkable memory. And I mean, what attracted me to Spencer Tracy is magic. But some sources say they were covering for each other. Insiders have said that Hepburn and Tracy's apparent romance was hiding the true secret, that they were engaging in other relationships, and that Hepburn was a lesbian and Tracy possibly gay or bisexual. Scotty Bowers, a man who arranged same-sex relationships and hookups under the radar in Hollywood, spoke out about the stars he knew to be closeted in his 2012 book, Full Service, My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Lives of the Stars, and in the 2017 documentary Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. Bowers claims that Tracy and Hepburn were both gay and that their relationship was a cover.
Tracy was having a relationship with Scotty. Scotty confirms it. Why people hold on to these myths is an interesting question. Why does it damage the standing? IndieWire
asked Bowers how gay Tracy was, and he said he got drunk and thanked the man beside him in the morning for taking care of him, before sharing a explicit comment about the actor. Asked the same question about Hepburn, he said, "She loved one woman for 40 years who left her to marry a rich man. They claim it was an open secret. Screenwriter and playwright Larry Kramer told The Hollywood Reporter in 2015 that Hepburn and Spencer Tracy were both gay, and everyone knew it. They were publicly paired together by the studio, Kramer said. Everyone in Hollywood knows this is true, but of course I haven't seen it printed anywhere. Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood also revealed that both had some suspicious relationship. She loved one woman for 40 years who left her to marry a rich man, he said. He claims to have arranged 150 get-togethers with women over 5 decades for Hepburn. That was his job, putting gay people together via a Hollywood gas station for rendezvous with movie stars, from Charles Laughton to Walter Pidgeon. In the film, the late Liz Smith goes on the record for the first time to confirm that Hepburn had lesbian relationships. With Tracy, Scotty is a primary source, said Tyrnauer. As far as I know, he and Tracy were alone when these things happened. Whether the relationship was a cover to hide what was then considered improper or one of the greatest romantic unions on and off the big screen, the affection between Tracy and Hepburn existed until their deaths. Hepburn was with Tracy when passed away in 1967, though she did not attend the funeral out of respect for his family and never publicly spoke of their relationship until after the death of Tracy's wife Louise in 1983. Hepburn was once asked why she stayed with Tracy for so long under the circumstances. "I honestly don't know," she replied. "I can only say that I could never have left him. We just passed 27 years together in what was to me absolute bliss." While the notion of Cary Grant's relationships, including with his roommate Randolph Scott, has gained acceptance, there may be more reluctance to accept the idea that Hepburn's long-term companion was Phyllis Wilburn, and that the romantic narrative with Tracy was, in part, a constructed myth. Various biographers, such as Garson Cannon, A. Scott Berg, and Barbara Leeming, have contributed to perpetuating the love story between Hepburn and Tracy.
Of Hepburn and Tracy to know that they were anything other than straight. Maybe they were bisexual. Maybe they were gay on Tuesday and straight on Wednesday. Who knows? I mean, that's really not as interesting to me.
For his part, former Vanity Fair editor and contributor Tyrnauer has believed Bowers ever since Gore Vidal introduced them. As Tyrnauer was shooting his documentary, he researched Bowers' claims. He found that for the most part, keeping in mind the faulty memory of a nonagenarian, many little specific details checked out. "The more I was with Scotty, the more I believed," he said. Gore really was a historian. He didn't lie about the record. That he endorsed Scotty was something I could take to the bank. As I interviewed Scotty, I started to cross-check and fact-check everything I could, almost in real time. Over and over, all this evidence began to appear through reliable articles and other accounts that I found by Googling. It was overwhelming. The cross-checking of facts points to his absolute believability. Gossip columnist and friend of Hepburn, Liz Smith, reportedly discussed Hepburn's personal life in the documentary Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood, asserting that the 4-time Oscar winner had same-sex relationships, as reported by BuzzFeed News. Furthermore, James Robert Parrish's book, Katherine Hepburn, The Untold Story, presents claims that Hepburn may have been bisexual or a lesbian, suggesting that her relationship with Tracy was more of a friendship than a romantic connection, as stated by the Bay Area Reporter. The book suggests that Hepburn intentionally began promoting the narrative of a great love with Tracy later in her life. One of the names that often comes up in conjunction with the rumors about Hepburn and Tracy's relationship is Phyllis Wilburn. She was Hepburn's longtime assistant, who is sometimes said to have been her companion or the person she was actually in love with. Biographer A. Scott Berg wrote in the 2003 book, Kate Remembered, via the Los Angeles Times. Although many people over the years have made certain assumptions about Miss Hepburn and her companion, there was nothing even vaguely about their alliance. That said, he also recalled a possibly illuminating exchange between Hepburn, Wilburn, and himself. "You've met Phyllis Wilburn," Berg wrote, that Hepburn said to him. He went on to claim that she called Wilburn, "my Alice B. Talkless." Talkless was the partner of writer Gertrude Stein. "I wish you wouldn't say that," Wilburn responded, according to Berg. "It makes me sound like an old lesbian, and I'm not." However, her fans still admire her. One of them wrote, "I love and respect Miss Hepburn. I've read 3 of her biographies and listened to all her interviews. Don't say things about her you're not sure of. Seeing women is nothing to be ashamed of. But that was a different time. She did what she had to for her career. Give her the respect she earned." Another one added, I don't care. It's not unusual if she was a lesbian. Just like most artists, 99.9% who identify as straight are on the spectrum of bisexuality and dabble in it. Plus, she's passed. Unless there is proof, we shouldn't speculate or rewrite her history. She was an amazingly brave woman. And ultimately, she managed to make a legacy which people still defend to this day. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.